Hi, it's Jackster, and welcome to this film review. In this video, I am going to review an extremely goofy movie, 2000. This is the sequel to the 1995 animated movie, a Goofy movie, which I previously reviewed on my channel. It was released straight to video like many of the Disney sequels during that time. Can it retain the strong elements that made the original movie as unforgettable and underrated as it is today? Or will it just be your typical kind of direct-to-video sequel from Disney? Let's see. The storyline. In this movie, Max, Goofy's son, is now going to college, finally free of his father. However, Goofy's empty nest syndrome causes him to mess up at work and he loses his job. And, to Max's embarrassment, Goofy ends up going to his campus. Meanwhile, as a subplot, Max and his friends PJ and Bobby strive to defeat the Gamus in the College X Games tournament. To be fair, if that subplot was not in the finished product, then the movie would probably feel longer than it already is at its 79-minute running time. I can see how the subplot spices things up in the movie, especially during the climax. But not only is this movie very dull at times, but the storyline is missing the touching moments and charm from the original movie. Some of the plot elements can feel very disconnected at times, and sometimes have nothing to do with one another, which makes those scenes just pointless filler. Also, there would be a lot of continuity issues. At the end of the last film, Max seemed used to Goofy's mishaps. But in this movie, all of that has been thrown into the trash. It's just the same relationship from the first film. During the middle of this movie, he's very mean to Goofy, and at the end, he's cool with him again. It's as if the relationship between Max and Goofy has been recycled from the original, which puts a few traces of unoriginality in the storyline. Even worse, the character development is not looked upon at all in this feature, and it doesn't help that Max's girlfriend, Roxanne, has been thrown out of the story. That is unless if he broke up with her, but we just didn't get to know why she wasn't in this movie. However, to the movie's credit, when Goofy gets up to his mischief, it can make the movie pretty funny. Sure, the humor is nowhere near as fun as in the original, but it can give out a few laughs. It's a shame how dull, predictable, lazy and unoriginal this storyline actually is when you look at it. I'm going to give the story a 3 out of 10. The animation. One thing I can say that has been done better in this movie than in the original is the animation. For a direct-to-video sequel, the quality is actually quite impressive. There's actually a reasonable amount of detail put into some of the crowd, background or effects animation, and the movements are very smooth and a lot less rough than in the original movie, giving it a fresher look. Like the first film, the movie would use some elements of computer animation. While it can look dated now, for its time, it blended in decently with the 2D animation. Also, the lip-syncing has been looked upon more than in the original film, and the characters' mouths sync in better with the film's dialogue than it did in the original. In the end credits where the characters would dance, they really would nail the character animation at that point, and quality-wise, it almost matches the quality from a theatrical movie from Walt Disney Feature Animation. Not to mention that it's colorful and very pleasing to look at. The animation in this follow-up is a lot fresher looking than before, and it is quite a rare occasion where a direct-to-video sequel's animation would be on par with or better than the first movie's animation. I'm going to give the animation a 9 out of 10. The characters. Unfortunately, it's back to some negative points here. I did mention before that the character development is really not well looked upon, and therefore, it has made these characters a lot weaker than before. You have Max, who is the college-bound son of Goofy who retains the same relationship towards Goofy from the first film which is recycled, and he remains very mean-spirited towards Goofy during the movie. I didn't hate him last movie, but I have quite a strong dislike for him in this movie. You can't help but feel so bad for Goofy, especially when he's having empty nest syndrome. And of course, while he isn't as fun or charming as in the original, there's still a lot of seriousness put into his character and at times he's very relatable, so I still like him in this movie. We have Bradley Uppercrust III, the head of the Gamma Mew Mew gang. He is very arrogant, and I'd probably consider him the antagonist of the movie, but not a very strong one, because of the terrible character development. As for the other Gamma members like Tank, they don't really appear often and only seem like they are there for their purpose rather than some quality. Sylvia Marple is the college librarian and Goofy's love interest, who has an intense passion for American 70s culture, which the film only really relies on for some potentially interesting moments. To be fair, I find the love story rushed, and it's not the most interesting. It's even worse with PJ and the beret girl though, it just seems so messed up at glance. Speaking of PJ, while he does have a bit more screen time than in the original, I don't feel like anything that's original or new is added to his character. Pete is still quite enjoyable though, I'll give it that. The one thing that really disappoints me though, is Robert Zimurowski. What happened to him? He was funny in the first film, but now he's an annoying, whining jerk. His voice sounds very childish, and that brings me on to the voice acting itself, which apart from that, is pretty good. The other secondary characters or so don't really serve much to the plot at all though. Sorry folks, but if you want some charm and a strong message like in the first film, don't expect much from these mostly bland characters. Sure, I like a few, and most of them are not offensively bad, but they're just not as fun as in the original. I'm going to give the characters a 6 out of 10. This isn't a terrible direct-to-video sequel like most of the ones from Disney are, but it's only really okay at best. An extremely goofy movie is unsurprisingly quite a step down from its original movie, with a very poorly executed story, rushed love story elements, mostly bland and forgettable characters, and quite a bit of pointless filler. While its animation has been improved, it's not enough to consider this a good movie. I can only recommend renting this at best. If you're a huge fan of the first movie, you might be a bit disappointed with this film. I don't hate it, I only just think it's okay. An extremely goofy movie has gotten a total of 18 points out of a possible 30, which would give the movie an overall score of 6 out of 10. Thanks guys for watching this movie review. If you liked the video, I recommend you hit the like button, and if you are new to my channel and you like my content, subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of any future content that I post. And keep posting your questions for the Q&A in my 100 subs special coming soon. Thank you, and goodbye. Subscribe by clicking on my profile picture that has a yellow background, and subscribe to my good friend, the BG channel, right above my picture. Also check out some of my videos, including my unusual news reports and more. Thank you.